And now for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 394 of This Old Marketing for Friday, September 22nd, 2023. And with me, as always, as he always is, my pal, my colleague, and a guy who definitely behaves better than a Colorado congresswoman at a Broadway show, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I have no comments on that.
Have you seen Beetlejuice? Have you gone to Beetlejuice?
Yes, it was fantastic.
I thought.
I wasn't.
But yet you
managed
to
things during
right.
Yeah,
you managed to restrain yourself and not actually grope the person next to you. And
you probably should give a little bit more detail because I don't. There's some people that may not know what you're talking about.
There's a congresswoman from Colorado. Her name is Lauren Boebert, isn't it? Boebert, Cubert. Which is Quibi. She was at a showing of Beetlejuice. I guess it's off Broadway because it's the touring company. Yes, it's the touring company.
It's not but it is the Broadway show version.
The Broadway show version of Beetlejuice. Apparently, according to the news reports, could not keep herself contained and was vaping, doing all kinds of groping with her partner as he sat next to her, both him to her and her to him, and apparently caused quite an uproar to the point where a woman behind them started to complain, and she then went off on the woman, and then they got kicked out. They actually got the congresswoman and her partner got kicked out of the theater because they were causing a disruption. So
just to make sure, she was complaining because it was a distraction. She wasn't complaining because she wanted to be part of whatever was
that is correct,
on, right?
That is correct.
I just wanted to make sure.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. It was not a FOMO. No, it was not a FOMO. It was
and apparently and I didn't know this that these shows record the audience. So they have it wasn't just that, they have a lot of this on film from the the hall itself. That
they have security cameras.
Beetlejuice is fun. It's it's no it's no Les Mis or anything like that, but It is a fun show. If you get a good person that's doing Beetlejuice, which you probably will, it's a super fun show. Completely based on.
I hear he actually interacts with the audience a little bit.
Very much so.
Yeah,
absolutely. Plays with the whole thing and breaks
the fourth wall.
Breaks the fourth wall. Yes, absolutely, and does that whole thing. So the only comment that I'll make about that whole situation is, and I purposely stayed out of the whole political thing because it's just better.
It's not politics. There's zero politics here. I
understand that.
Really stupid. Yeah,
but I don't even keep up on who's doing what because when I get a question from some people that I know, then I can honestly say I haven't been following it, and I want that to be my answer. I'm sorry, okay. I haven't been following that. I don't have any opinion on it. But this senator, right? Is she a senator or is she?
No, she's a congresswoman.
Congresswoman.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Isn't she the one that's really all about strong family values? And
yes, very much so.
It's just odd. It's just strange.
It's just
It's just
it's just odd.
It's just odd.
I mean, look, it's not surprising. That's the thing. It's not surprising, but it is odd.
But this is what a lot of Congress people, that it's do what I say, not what I do.
Oh, for sure. You just figure that some of it happens behind closed doors, right? Where it's rumor and innuendo, not broadcast live on a security camera.
You would think there'd be a little bit more discretion.
Just even to keep it that way, right? I mean, the level of stupidity to do this in public is just it's sort of mind-boggling.
Maybe you get to a certain point where you don't notice other people. If you're so concerned with yourself,
that's a great point. That's a great point.
You just like these other people, like, yeah, do they really exist?
Yeah.
Am I am I a matrix of one?
That's right.
I don't know.
A matrix
Who
of
knows?
one.
Anyways, you got to keep that stuff to the AMC where it belongs.
Yes, that's right.
Don't be taking it to an off-Broadway musical, especially such an esteemed show as Beetlejuice.
Keep that stuff to a general cinemas.
Speaking of that, are you gonna go see the movie Dumb Money coming out? Have you seen this?
I've seen the trailers for it. I have not. It looks fascinating.
So this is Ben Mesrek's book on who did the
Robin Hood, right?
Facebook.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, he did. No, he did the Facebook social network book.
Oh yes,
it became a movie.
Yes.
And now he wrote the book. I don't know what the book's name is, but the movie's name is Dumb Money, and it's about the whole GameStop AMC thing that's getting really good reviews. So
it looks really interesting. I mean, who's in it? I'm blanking on the actors.
Seth Rogen's in it.
Seth Rogen, but there's
Anthony Ramos is in it.
Yeah.
I forgot the lead characters.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll come.
But
to us
there's some star.
There's great talent.
What's his name from SNL's in it?
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah. There you go.
Davidson's in it. I can never remember his name. I can't remember most names. You're lucky I can remember your name.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Daniel.
That's good.
Before we get on to other stuff, I know you're going to talk about it later, but a big congratulations on finishing your book.
You're very kind. Yes. It's out.
Good?
It's out in the wild. I feel good. I feel good about it.
You gave birth to another baby.
Yes, that is correct, and it is out in the wild now. It is. People are receiving it. I'm getting messages, and I'll talk about it a little later in terms of why and what and where and how and all that stuff, just to talk about it. But yes, thank you very much.
I of course I already purchased my copy. It's on the way.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And I'm honored that you chose orange as the cover of your book. I mean,
I didn't choose it. The publisher chose it.
That you would make such a decision to go with orange.
Here's the funny thing.
Strongly suggesting to your publisher that you go with my color.
I think you will.
I don't know what to say. Yeah. I'm without words.
Well, you should be honored. Really, truly, you should be honored. Here's the thing, though, and I think you'll notice this when you get your copy of the book. In photographs, it reads very orange. It reads really orange. When you look at it in person, it does not. And when you look at it in person, it's very much of a kind of a almost a burnt yellow, like a sunset color, rather
more
than
like my shirt here today.
It's a little darker than that. It's more like the background color of your Hamilton poster in the back there.
That one.
And so it's you'll see it's different. It's fascinating to me how it photographs different than it's
like a coffee orange.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's or a mustard corn sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd go with coffee orange.
But
anyways, I'm thrilled that you came around to really embracing the color.
Thank you.
That you've always fought against.
I know.
For more than a decade.
I know.
People should know, like, when you get up on stage at Content Marketing World and you have orange on, I always see that. I'm like, okay, now he's wearing orange. Now that I'm out of the company, now he's gladly throwing all kinds of orange on.
I wore orange.
You don't even have anything to say to that.
I don't. I really don't. It's all just an orange blur, as it were.
And I want to know why we have a lot to cover on the show.
Yeah.
And we always go over. But so two things. One, your Cowboys are amazing, and I really, it's fun to watch the defense play. Especially
they're unbelievable. Yeah.
Number 4, who is it? Walker? Who's the number 4? Are
you talking about Micah Parsons?
Parsons.
Yeah,
sorry.
Micah Parsons
He's very exciting to watch, and he's not in the game enough to be.
Yeah.
I think they sit him for too many plays.
Yeah.
And for anyone who watched the Steelers Browns debacle game
Oof.
which was just it was
It's
hard
the
to watch.
It's
in
the
a lot
most
of ways.
Browns game of all Browns games, right? I mean, it's such the quintessential Browns game.
I got to tell you, for those of you, so just to talk a little bit about football, but Nick Chubb, who is arguably the greatest running back I've ever seen in person. He's third highest run per touch in the history of the NFL, and just one of the nicest guys ever. Had a season-ending injury that was horrific, and we don't know to this point whether he'll be able to play football again.
Yeah, I think it's a career-ending injury, to be honest.
That's what who knows? It's the same injury, apparently the same leg that happened when they thought it was a career-ending injury in 2015 for him. So who knows? Just prayers and thoughts out to Nick and his family. And, and honestly, I was numb the rest of that game. I didn't feel anything about Deshaun basically giving the game away.
Well, that's that's as I've said from the very beginning. The Browns defense is for real. The Browns offense is good. Your quarterback is not. And I've never understood that whole thing. Never understood, even beyond sort of the social, cultural stuff that Deshaun was dealing with, and how all that went down. From just a pure football, strategy, I never understood that acquisition. He's never that good. He was never that great.
Well, we put the entire franchise in his hands, and
it's sad.
Showed
yes.
There's so many things to talk about. This is on the field antics are odd, but if you just want to talk about football playing, I saw this a couple days ago. It ranks from 1 to 32 quarterback accuracy this year, and number 32 is Deshaun Watson, which he's basically off target on 30% of his passes.
Yeah,
way off target. And even all the rookies are better than this year. That's why Pittsburgh had a pick six at the beginning of the game, because he couldn't make the one little. Anyways,
you could go on.
I know. I'm just so upset about Nick Chubb.
Well, Kareem Hunt's coming in. He's coming back. I'm picking Kareem Hunt by the way up on my fantasy team. So.
Yeah, I think that there's at least you can say that we have upstanding and wonderfully moral people that are leading the Cleveland Browns to losing.
There you go.
I'm in my natural Cleveland Browns state of depression.
Nice.
That's all I can say. Okay.
Well, with that, let's get to a happy fun time show. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy fun time.
Happy fun time. Yeah, happy fun time. Sure. Okay, we do have a wonderful show, and we do have a lot to cover because there's a bit of news here. The first story that we'll talk about is Elon Musk. Because why not? And he is considering apparently a monthly subscription for X, because of course he is. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about how Hollywood giants, the big studios, fascinating article from Axios, have lost some of their value and what that means in the context of content, of media, of influencers, and of course, what's going on with the actors and writers and all that kind of stuff. Then a fascinating Twitter post. We actually talked about on the show before the possible, is it mostly dead or just a little bit dead, of Scribe. And now the new CEO in Scribe may be just coming back to life and all sorts of things, and how he wrote a post talking about how he accidentally manifested his dream job. We'll talk about Google. Google's had an interesting week. They announced that they're going to now require artificial intelligence ads on political ads to have disclosures. We'll talk about what that means, or quite honestly doesn't mean. And then there's a really interesting thing going on with Taylor Swift and Google. She basically put out this interesting little puzzle to get all of the titles of her new and upcoming album, the 1989, her version of the 1989 album, which is actually the more interesting topic of her publishing and how she's actually redoing all of her albums to get her publishing rights back. Yeah, it's fascinating. And the puzzle may or may not have glitched, and what does that mean for the brand and all those kinds of things. We've got our question from our audience, which is always fun to talk about. And then we'll rant and rave a little bit, and I'm going to talk about my new book and some of the thinking behind it. And Joe is going to rant a little bit about the publishing industry. So fascinating.
Just comment.
Just related.
Just a commentary. I don't want to be... Yeah, I don't want to be that guy because I'm already in a ranty mood.
All right,
as
good.
You can tell.
I like it. I dig
like
it
when I'm in a ranty mood. My
wife
do.
Does
not.
I do.
She's like, you have so many blessings. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, all right.
The audience likes it when you're in a ranty mood. That's for sure.
We don't know this either. We don't know, but we'll see after this episode.
Okay. So, well, here we go. All right. Well, let's get to our top story here, and that comes to us courtesy of Variety, as I know it and love it. We always called it the Daily Variety. But from Variety.com, and this is, of course, Hollywood magazine / newspaper. And the headline here is, of course, Elon Musk suggests he will charge all X / Twitter users. That rebranding is just sticking so well, Elon. Elon suggested he will charge all X / Twitter users a fee to be on the platform. And the article opens up by saying Elon Musk may flip the switch to make X, the social network formerly known as Twitter. I mean, it's just ridiculous now. It's just getting to the actual ridiculous part of this anyway. An entirely subscription-based platform, Musk brought up the idea of charging all users of X / Twitter during a wide-ranging conversation focused on AI that featured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. We're moving to have a small monthly payment for use of the X system, Musk told Netanyahu. Just a very weird place to break that news, claiming it's the only way that I can think to combat the vast armies of bots. His comments were initially reported by Bloomberg's Dave Lee. Musk didn't mention the timing of his plan, nor did he say exactly how much it would cost, other than to say a monthly fee of, quote, a few dollars or something that would deter the creation of bot accounts, according to Musk. I think this is non-news because I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I've been wrong about this before. What do you think?
Well, it's this is a telegraph move, in my opinion. I think that we could see this coming as another thing that Elon tries to do. And so
you think he's actually seeding the well here? You think he's actually like feeling this out to see how people react to it?
I think that yes. I think that if enough people react positively to it, he's going to go forward with it. And actually, if you look at how other businesses, let's just say the New York Times, moved their way into the digital model and did it so, okay, we see it all the time with this one. You have 5 free articles left. You have 4 free articles. If they did something like that where they didn't completely shut it down, but those people that are paying for it get unlimited access, and then those people that aren't get limited access or whatever the case is, then it may be the way to go, because as far as I can tell, Twitter X's user base has not grown in a very long time. It is what it is. People who are there, and there's no new people coming in here. It just is what it is. So if they're in for the long haul and you want to say, oh, hey, you want to pay to do this thing, they might get a good conversion rate, and it could actually build something of a regular revenue stream and maybe a more vibrant community, because Lord knows that he's not doing it through advertising, because he's alienated all the advertisers already. How many brands are strong enough to be able to take being on X Twitter right now? Not many. That's why they've lost 50% of their advertising. So if they want, Elon wants this to be a profitable digital media entity, this is probably something that they should look at. And I don't have a problem with it. Now, whether or not he'll go through with it, who knows? Because Elon throws this stuff out all the time, and half of the time it's meaningless. But I really believe there could be a model there, and they're already testing it out they did it with TweetDeck, which became X Pro, and it's like, oh no, you have to be a Twitter Blue member or subscription, and who knows where they're going with it. Does it ultimately really matter? Probably not. I mean, no. As we talked about, this is the smallest company that's talked more than like nobody talks about
right.
We talk about this company more than the
Pinterest.
10 largest companies in the world. It's just, and it's so small and seemingly meaningless, but it's Elon, so we're interested.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the plan is obviously flawed from the start. Not because I wouldn't think it would be flawed for new users, and if this were a new platform or even a growing platform, I could see this being, I mean, we've talked about it on this show that a subscription-based Twitter was kind of the ultimate idea anyway, right?
Yeah.
Certainly, the way that you go about it is important. And I think the opportunity that they had to switch to this kind of model has passed them by, right? Because you wouldn't have launched the premium product first, right? In other words, if you were going to do this from the beginning, you would have moved it over to a subscription service, and then you would have launched the premium service over the top of that to say, and if you get a Twitter blue check, you get X amount of things or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with this is not necessarily that the idea of a subscription model, in my mind. The problem with this is that it requires a conversion. It requires somebody to care enough when they get that email saying, by the way, your access to Twitter is going to go away at the end of the month if you don't go in and put in your credit card and be willing to pay $3 or $4 or $5 a month. So many people are just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And it won't be because they don't like the service or that there's some sort of protest against it. It's just going to be because they don't care enough. They don't care enough to do it, and ultimately that will lower the number of people who are actually there, and then it literally becomes like one of these niche social networks, right? It becomes one of these niche little.
It is a niche social network.
Right. Well, it is now for sure.
I've always looked at it. It already is. So I don't know. I mean, if you have 200, what do they have? 250 million users.
Something like that.
How many of those are real people? We don't know.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why they're doing this, because of the whole bot situation. And it will clear out some bots, because the bots aren't going to pay for access to this thing. So, and if they do, then great for Elon. It'll all work out wonderful, where you have 50,000 bots paying for this thing.
That's the title of the show. That should be the title of the show. So bots ain't gonna pay.
It maybe 25 million paid subscribers to X is better. Maybe it is.
That's such a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's such a drop in the bucket in terms of revenue of where they need to be. But yeah,
not if you right size the business.
Well, true, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
There's nothing wrong.
I mean,
with
it becomes $1 billion business. It becomes a $1.2 billion business at that. 25 at $5 a month. Yeah. There you go.
The problem is we're talking about this because he paid $40 billion for it, or whatever he paid.
Yeah,
that's the whole ridiculous amount that we're all looking back like, why would anybody do that?
Right.
Because Elon has all this money and he's like, oh, that'd be great. I want to have this little pet project.
Yeah.
So unlike where you have Bezos buying the Post, which just treated it more like a business, and Elon's treating this more like a 8th grade science fair. So that's the difference. So I don't know.
Well,
who's this? And nothing will probably come of this thing. But I'm New York Times. I mean, I use the New York Times because I know that model better. But they don't. They could say, "Hey, we don't need everybody in the world getting access to this. We just want our core audience. We want our loyal readers to get regular access to this thing." And it worked really, really well. And they've been very profitable for quite a few years now, and that's worked. So why?
Yeah, well, it took them years too. It took them years to make that switch, right? I mean, there's a great, and in fact, it's on the New York Times where they sort of documented their own process. It's a fascinating article. It's a really long, fascinating article about how they sort of documented their years-long process of switching over to a subscription-based model, and talked about how they would have discussions all the time about the cost of the printing presses and the cost of all of the distributed local printing presses where they printed the New York Times, and how much that, and they were like, we could just rip off that Band-Aid and stop printing them tomorrow. I would cut all those costs. And they were like, no, do it slow, do it considered pace, and do this, in the right way. And they navigated it very well, to make that transition not so sudden that it freaked everybody out.
Well, I mean, Elon does anything and it freaks people out. So
yeah, of course,
it's a little bit different situation. But I guess the point is, the business that might be the right business model, simply because of the fact that I don't think it's going to be advertising.
Yes. Well, it is a business model. They're sure it is a business model. Yeah. I mean, at this point, it really is whack-a-mole, right? Like, pick one. Like, you just, pick a business model and go with it, because they're all, like you've said many times on this show, they all suck, right? It's a crappy business. And so pick one.
We'll talk about it later in the show and just talk about how great the media business is going right now. So,
okay. Well, speaking of which, let's move on to our next. Yeah, we can speak to our next story here, which is coming to us courtesy of Axios, and something that you all probably felt, but couldn't figure out, put it all together. They do a really nice job here, sort of a round-up post, if you will, on the Hollywood giant media companies and their change in stock prices for over the last, really sort of the last year, not quite a year, but almost the last year, where all of them are off their highs from earlier in 2023. So the highs were, in the plus 20% place, and now they're all down 8, down 12, down 23, down 40. And the article opens up by saying entertainment firms that were once eager to scale are starting to slim down, shedding assets, and are no longer deemed core to their business. A new wave of consolidation within the media industry is expected next year, but publicly traded media firms need to convince Wall Street and potential deal partners that their businesses are strategically moving in the right direction if they want to make bigger moves. Driving the news is Disney, and they've held talks to sell its broadcast network ABC along with local affiliates to local broadcaster Nexstar, as Bloomberg has reported. And Byron Allen, the media entrepreneur who currently owns the Weather Channel, has made a $10 billion offer to Disney for an asset package that includes ABC, its affiliates, and other linear networks owned by Disney, his spokesperson confirmed. Disney hasn't said it's made any decisions with regard to that, but CEO Bob Iger has said that the company was considering selling off its linear assets as it looks to prioritize parks, streaming, and movies. The article goes on to talk about Paramount, as well as Warner Brothers Discovery and NBC Universal, that they're going through similar things. So this was fascinating to me from a couple of perspectives, but I'd love to get your take. This kind of speaks to what you're going to rant about later, but what is your take on this with the media companies?
The big media model is just the absolute worst business model you can get into today. If you look at the people, the group of people that big media wants to attract more than anyone else, let's just say that's 18 to 35 year olds that are going out and hopefully buying cars and houses and other things that are starting to get money. Hopefully all those things are true. They're not watching any of these media outlets. They are on TikTok and YouTube, and they're not watching ABC, folks. So you have an older demographic that's not as that has buying power, but is not tantalizing by any means to advertisers to want to reach that group of people. And it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I have no problem. Like, Disney's move to divest ABC makes perfect sense to me. I've heard talks, I don't know if you have, about them doing the same thing with ESPN and getting rid of
for sure.
that.
Yeah.
So the only reason why, and this is just a Disney specific thing, I always thought that Disney had this opportunity to build out this in-person sports enterprise like you would have for Disney World, like another parks dedicated to ESPN and personalities and all kinds of fun stuff. It doesn't look like they've really never built that out on the campus at Orlando. They've had some like fun little projects around ESPN, but they've really never done it. So if they're not going to do it, fine. It's not a critical asset. You can get rid of that as well. So I think this is just, we're going to see another one of these in 3 months and another one of these in 6 months. But again, it's tied to the writers strike as well.
Yep.
If you look at when the writers strike started and you look at, let's say, the stock price of Netflix is doing fantastically well. And everyone else who's tied more to writers and talent that way are just struggling. And it's just like the horrible hits just keep coming out of these companies. And what are they going to do?
Yeah.
It's just going to be more and more. I mean, let's just, so if you look at the big why more than anything else and more than the advertising demographic, is that there is no competitive moat around any of this. You can a competitive content company can start, whether it's launched by Cisco Systems or Arrow Electronics or any of these companies, or you or I.
Yeah.
We can do so with less resources. We can band together with a network of people and make this thing work. And so if you're Warren Buffett and you're looking at, oh, I'm going to invest in a media company, you'd say never, because the first rule is there some kind of competitive moat? And there's not. So since there's not, and there is not going to be, and scale doesn't really work to your advantage in this model, it is just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And so we're going to have a billion media companies, and you're going to have these big ones that are just going to struggle to scale. So that's
100%. Well, no, I mean, look, it's simple math, right? I mean, this is the this is the challenge. And it's why, I think, I mean, look, I'm not anti-union at all, but I think both the writers and the actors here have done themselves no favors by picking this time to strike, because the math just doesn't work. And so, as I've said from the very beginning with regard to the strike and with other stuff, be careful what you ask for, because you'll probably get it. You're probably going to get it. They will probably get what they're asking for, with the exception of, I think, the transparency and the subscribers. And by the way, they had a big meeting this week. All the CEOs of Netflix, of Disney, of NBC Universal, they personally met with the negotiating teams this week, literally yesterday, as we
get your act
as we
together.
record
Let's
this.
Go. Let's get
Basically, they're saying, let's get a deal done here, because it's in nobody's best interest for them to continue to strike. And I think they're my opinion, and this is I have no inside information here, but my opinion is they're going to walk in and go, "You want more money? We'll give you more money." But we're not going to be transparent about the streaming thing, because it's core to our business model that we have to be able to do that. So here's the thing, but it's just simple math. Take Disney Plus, for example. Disney Plus, 146, I think is my last count, 146 million users paying $15 a month, right? That's $2 billion. They spent $33 billion last year in content for streaming.
Yep.
So even if you don't believe that, right? Even if you go, okay, that's probably overstated. Okay, let's half that, $15 billion. It doesn't work. The math just doesn't work, right? Spending $15 billion a year on content and getting $2 billion a year of revenue just doesn't work. So unless you're exponentially growing the subscriber base, which is just not happening because of the number of streaming services out there, the quantity of content that's out there that people just don't need, quite honestly, there's not enough credit cards in the world to support this model. It's just not. And so it's ultimately going to come down to, you have to be gigantic and really right-size your business, really right-size the streaming business. And basically, what does that mean for us as consumers? It means a lot less new content than we've been getting, right? We've been getting, this has been the golden age of the last 5 years have been the golden age of streaming. It will go down in history that this was an incredible abundance of content that we got as consumers that just won't happen again with this business model, because it just can't. The math doesn't work.
Well, who are the two largest media companies by viewership, media entities, let's say, by viewership right now? One is TikTok and two is YouTube.
Yeah.
What do they pay for content?
Zero.
Nothing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
how do you compete against that? It's just very, very difficult. And that's why you have to get smart. We've talked, I mean, this is where you get to content marketing, and I have to really focus on an underserved niche. And I've become the leading expert in this by distributing this amazing content to that group of people over a long period of time. It's not easy to do.
That's right.
It is very challenging to go up against free.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to be smart about it. But so if you are a horizontal media company like a Disney, like a Warner Brothers, like a what's the other ones that are ABC, you're like, geez, this is. And so that's why when you look what's going on, what's the number 1, 2, 3, 4 product on ABC right now? They're all reality shows.
Right. That's right. Because they're cheap to produce.
It's the cheapest to produce.
It's the cheapest to produce, right? So you're not going to get your, 7 or 8 or 10 new A-level, $500 million, $800 million productions of Game of Thrones or Ahsoka or Andor or any of the Marvel titles, et cetera. Yeah. Those, people forget that when it was just movies, like think about it from just the movies perspective, the number of that the movie studios would produce every year was 4, 3 or 4 of those size movies. They would produce a lot of, the slate of movies from a major movie studio might be, 20 or 30 in a year. And then 4 of those would be big, one for every season, right? Your spring blockbuster, your summer blockbuster, your holiday blockbusters. And those would be your big movies, right? The ones that you would spend hundreds of millions of dollars on producing. And so your total expenditure for those movie studios, for that content might be a couple of $1 billion, $2 or $3 billion. It's 10x that now. It's that the studios have been spending on trying to take their share of the market in streaming, and it's just not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. And so what's going to end up happening here is that they are going to say they're going to right size those businesses. They just have to, and there will be a lot of consolidation and merger to happen because the big businesses work if they're really big or they're really small. You can't sort of be in the middle. And so if you're really big, you can diversify across theme parks and all the kinds of things that you can diversify against. But if you're really small, you can also do, you can be a little bit famous, right? You can be a little bit good at what you do. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in all of the different aspects of it.
Definitely a 1%er business.
For sure.
Absolutely.
These days, for sure. Yeah. A 1%er or literally a just be a little bit tiny, right? Just be a little, and that's content marketing, right? Just, when you operate as a media company, even if that is your core business as a media company, you can create a good small business, but it's really hard to create a good middle-sized business. You know what I mean? That's the tough part because it's just hard to scale, really hard to scale these days.
Well, at least, I mean, we knew it was coming. We've talked about it forever. You can't spend, these companies combined can't spend $150 billion on content when the market is 1/5 that size.
That's right. Yeah,
so,
that's right. That's right. All right. Moving on to our next story here, which is actually some good news in the world of media, or sort of certainly in independent media. So this is, we're going to link to a blog post. It's really a LinkedIn post from Eric Jorgensen, who basically writes a long blog post about how he was a writer and a writer of books, and basically, got some friends who back in 2021 said, hey, listen, this whole Scribe thing where you published your book is going out of business. And so he calls the CEO and basically calls the CEO and says, hey, what's up? You're going out of business. And the CEO says, nah, we've had financial troubles and things are not going that great. But basically, Eric had some contacts in the venture and the money basically space and said, yeah, you should invest in this thing and make it a real deal. And they said, okay, but you have to be CEO. And so he basically, as he writes in the post, manifested his dream job now as the CEO of Scribe Media. And as he said, we're doing really well. I mean, and I think This is a fun success story. It's a fun, lovely, wonderful success story. You are super close to this space now. What do you think about all this?
Well, I'm so first of all, the more organizations that can help creators get their books out is fine by me. I love that. The most tragic part about Scribe Media going under when it was putting together these professional books for people in a lot of cases writing a lot of that material, but putting the whole creation and distribution process together, that those authors were without project. It's like, oh, it's gone. It's like my project was gone. So there were hundreds sort of in the pipeline, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, what do I do now? So now I'm glad that this is going. Good on Eric for seeing that there's a model still here. It's a challenging model, but it's one that I think that is needed. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of this podcast about sort of my feelings about the traditional book publishing process. But we need this. This is great. More the better. I hope they're successful. There's just not enough where it's more of the royalty-free publishing process, where you don't have to worry about royalties coming in from your book publisher. You sort of have a services group help you get your book and everything ready, and then you take them all. You take all the profits. That's the model that I think is the future that's coming. I think that's the model that Scribe uses. So I would like to see more of that. I hope they're successful. Obviously, there's no secret. At Tilt Publishing, we're trying to do something similar to that specifically for content creators. Yeah. And so this is, I don't know if you consider this any kind of a competitive thing. They do a little bit more on the editorial side than we'll do. I don't know exactly how the model's going to work right now, but all I know is that you and I talk to creators all the time that they're really good at their YouTube channels and their podcasts and their newsletters. And you say, okay, you're ready to write your book, and they're a deer in the headlights. They just don't understand the process at all. And so the more companies that can help authors do that, creators do that, the better.
Yeah, well, I think this will feed into your your commentary a little later, but I think this is. We talked a little bit about this last show when we talked about the idea of Amazon getting rid of their periodicals, right? Which is the need for an independent market is high, right? And it gets right to everything we've been talking about in this show, right? The need for in order for the bigger businesses to survive, they need the smaller independent businesses, and vice versa. And so there needs to be alternatives to this, to the big publishing machine, and things like Lulu and Tilt Publishing and Scribe. These are all good alternatives for independent publishers to do things and create a marketplace, a viable marketplace for those small content creators, and businesses to thrive. Because what does that? I mean, it really what it does is gives people the demand. It creates demand for more content, and which creates demand for more content, which then creates demand for bigger, higher produced content. So if I were a big company, I'd be funding these things. I'd be getting behind these things from way in the back, and launching little micro businesses here to help these content creators do this thing, because it's like your B team, right? It's like your it makes me so angry because I so all the way back in the day when I was a consultant at a big web shop called US Web in 2001. And my first job in that big consulting firm, the first job they gave me was to fire all the small clients. Basically, everybody that was a sub $1 million client, my job was to fire them because they were considered too costly, basically, to continue on. And so I became, by the way, like the hero of Los Angeles, because I basically walked around and gave all these small agencies, clients, right? Like big, meaningful clients. So I got to know all the local agencies in town, and got taken to lunch a lot. And so it was a really kind of a fun job. But the point was, I said, let's not do that. Let's create a little incubator where we bring in sort of our B-level or young talent, put them into a content studio and a website building studio, and foster their talent by working on their low cost. Will foster their talent and by working on these sort of B-level clients, and that'll create demand because it creates better content and better businesses that will ultimately become A-level clients. And they were like, nah, we don't like that business model. So it's that, right? It's just creating that level. It's I don't know. There's something there.
There is something there. We're going to talk more about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether it's today or not, we don't know. It might be.
Very, very quickly here. Let's just do a quick lightning round here on an article that came to us courtesy of Marketing Brew, which is Google is now going to require AI disclosures on political ads, which is kind of laughable at its face. But the article opens up by saying Google is stepping up AI regulation ahead of next year's presidential election in the U.S. Political ads will be required to disclose when they feature quote-unquote synthetic content, such as AI-generated visuals or sound, per an update to the company's political content policy. According to the policy, which will roll out in November, advertising that this is a quote, inauthentically depicts real or realistic-looking people or events will need to disclose that it's been synthetically altered in a clear and conspicuous fashion where it is likely to be noticed by viewers. The update applies to audio, image, and video advertising across Google's platforms, Ad Display Network, and YouTube. The article goes on for a little bit longer to talk about some of the details here, but they're not much more details other than basically some examples of this that have happened.
What is where it is likely to be noticed by viewers mean?
I don't know.
What is that? What if it wasn't likely to be noticed? Is it okay?
Right. Yeah.
So if you can completely fool them with AI and nobody would notice, it's okay?
Yeah, that's right. It's just
dumb.
But it's...
I know what they're trying. We know what they're trying to do.
I know that they're trying to do, and
it's totally yes. They should be applauded.
Yes.
For trying to say don't do any of this fully AI stuff and deep fake people and that. I get that. We want that to happen.
And that's what they're really trying to get to, right? They're trying to get to the deep fake thing, right? They're trying to get to somebody's likely, so one of the candidates is likely to take another candidate's speech and put AI voice to it, or put AI, put a deep fake thing to it and have them saying some things that goes viral on social media, et cetera. But that's the point. It won't be a paid ad. You know what I mean? All of this stuff that's going to happen in AI won't be paid for. It'll be spread organically. Yeah, they don't need to do paid advertising for this. It's going to be spread organically. So this is a little bit, again, like we talked about last week, it's sort of, again, a bit like putting your finger in the dam when there's 14 other holes in the dam. It's like, yay, good for you. You've plugged the one useless hole that, that's leaking the water. But I get it. I understand why they're doing it, but it seems so
This is more of a CYA move.
Sure, this is yes, it's virtue signaling, but at its core.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
It's not going to be effective. It is definitely not going to be effective.
Because AI or not, when you cut these things up, they always make it sound like people are doing things they're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
They'll take a little sound bite and they look at he said it.
Right.
But you don't realize what they said it around.
Right.
So who cares if it's that or if it's AI? You're still trying to depict something that's not true.
So what Google is ostensibly doing is basically telling the candidates, go do it, but just don't pay us to do it. Right. They're saying do it because it can be done, but don't pay us to do it because you can go viral someplace else.
I already talked to my wife about this. I want to be out of the country next November. I don't even want to be around any of this. Is that okay? We'll have to work out our podcast a little bit differently.
All right.
Because I'm not going to be in the States.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll figure that out. Where are you going to go?
If you have anyone has recommendations, I'm totally if it's October, November, it has to be somewhere warm. Maybe Bermuda, where they will find me.
Sure. Bermuda, October, November, Bermuda, Hawaii would be good. Yeah, Hawaii
would be good, and I'm liking. They're struggling with a lot of places struggling with stuff right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
It's crazy.
All right. Do you want to cover the Taylor Swift thing very quickly, or should we just jump right into our question?
We can cover it. I think what we should do is, because we'll do Paris's question next episode. Let's do that.
That's fantastic.
Is that good?
Yes.
Paris,
yeah, that's great.
We'll cover it next week.
Yes.
Thank you for the
fantastic.
All right, So what's this Taylor Swift thing?
So here we go. So this comes to us courtesy of NBC News, WNBC. Basically, Taylor, I can't not do it. Taylor Swift reveals 1989 Taylor's version vault song names after a day of Google game glitches. That is one headline that I did not have on my bingo card this year. The article opens up by saying Taylor Swift fans unlocked a surprise on Wednesday morning after seemingly breaking Google's search function, which the pop sensation used to create a virtual Easter egg hunt to reveal her new 1989 Taylor's version track titles. Let's be clear, Google created it. She did not. I do not see Taylor sitting down and coding in front of a Linux machine trying to make sure all this stuff happens.
Although I bet she could do it.
I'll bet she can.
Anyone can.
If anybody can code up
my money's
some
on
good,
Taylor.
some C++, it's Taylor
that woman
Swift.
Can do anything.
She really can. Anyway, so basically the way it works, I guess, I'm not a Swiftie, so I don't understand.
I went to it.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I went in.
So you go to Google.
And type in Taylor Swift. Yeah, you type in Google.
And you would unlock like little puzzle pieces, like little Easter eggs.
I'm showing it what it looks like on the screen right now. It's like a safe, and it drops on this, and then some of the songs show, and then after it's done doing the little preview, it starts giving you puzzles so you can figure out, and it'll give you hints, and you've got to type them in the search bar to get the other stuff.
Okay.
So
does Taylor pay for that, or does Google do that sort of does Google come to her people and go, hey, we got an idea. It'll be fun. We'll do something, and basically we'll do this little game. It'll be fun. We'll get more search traffic. You'll get awareness, like you need awareness. I think
Google reached out. I think that I have it. You and I were talking before the show. Did she pay for this? I can't imagine she would pay for this. I just can't.
She doesn't need it.
No,
right?
She doesn't need it. She's already causing earthquake type tremors in most cities where she goes. So why is she?
Right.
She doesn't need Google to do this. I think the Google team went to her and said, we'd like to do this thing. And they worked it as a nice partnership.
So it's kind of like, in a weird way, it becomes kind of an influencer marketing or a content marketing approach for Google.
That's what I think. I think Google reached out to a creator and said, we'd like to do this. And they were like, have at it. This is great. And then they worked in all the things, and Taylor did her post on Instagram, and it was wonderful.
That's lovely.
It is lovely.
I'm so pleased. I'm pleased for Google. I'm pleased for Taylor. She needed more publicity. She's really, really been hurting when it comes to marketing. And
didn't she break? I mean, with the glitching and stuff like that, she almost broke Google.
Well, they definitely broke the thing. I don't think they broke Google, but they broke the little app. Which is interesting that they broke the little app because there were so many people searching.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't even break the app. They probably just there was probably so much traffic that the app was just struggling to keep up. And so it's not broken necessarily. It's just like they probably didn't even realize how popular this thing would be because
the server got too hot.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine that? It's like, what went down? What happened? The server's too hot. Wait, it's Taylor again. What do we do?
The server's too hot.
I've seen that movie.
I've seen that movie as well. All right, let's get to our rants and raves here, so we can get out of here. Which is a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, makes us feel like Lauren Boebert at Beetlejuice, or makes us feel like we're the woman behind Lauren Boebert.
Did you we really want to feel like Lauren Boebert?
She feels pretty good about herself. If you watch her in interviews, she's
maybe that's
she's not sorry. You know what I mean? She's not. You know what I mean?
Maybe she has the key to life. It's just
right.
Saying, it's all about me,
Yeah.
Everything else that's going on, and I'm just joking because I don't think that is the key to life, but I think that's how some people lead their lives, and it's
I
like
think it is
ignorant
too.
bliss. I know some people that do this.
I do
Just
too.
like if it's not happening around them, then it doesn't
That's right.
exist.
They're called narcissists. Yeah.
Good on yeah. We know a few.
We do indeed. All right.
Not
What do you?
am
I going first?
You go first, because this is big news.
Well, it's semi big news. It's big news for me. I don't know how big the news is for anybody else, but yes, I wrote a new book. So I'll, on video here, I'll just show it here on video so you can actually see the title. Let the camera do the autofocus. I should do that. And so yeah, it's I'm super excited about it because it represents. So somebody asked me, and I really thought about my answer here. They said, why another book on content marketing?
By the way, the name of the book is Content Marketing
Strategy,
by
right?
Robert
So it could not be any more on the nose about what it is. And so they said, why another book on content marketing? Hasn't enough been written on that? Absolutely 100% enough has been written on the topic. However, what I've noticed over the 10 years that I and you and all of us have been working on this with clients at events and trainings and keynotes and all the things we've done is that 98% of it is either about the content, how to create great, wonderful, amazing content that's, engaging and thoughtful and educational and entertaining and all those kinds of things, or it's about marketing, which is how to look at marketing and how does it affect, the marketing strategy and SEO and all those kinds of things. And what really there hasn't been a book about yet is the strategy. And a book about strategy. And that's what I really wanted to write was I leaned very heavily into Michael Porter's definition of strategy, which is how the activities we perform every day fit together in a differentiated way. In other words, how do we perform the same activities everybody else does, but either perform them in a different way or do different things in our business that actually makes our business different, has competitive advantage. And that to me has always been what is the secret sauce of any good content marketing approach, is that it's not about the content. The content doesn't differentiate you, and it's not about your marketing strategy, because ultimately your marketing strategy changes from month to month to quarter to year to year. But what differentiates you in the long term is building the operation, not just acting like a media company, but actually becoming a the operations of a media company. And this what company, when we look at the real success stories that get mentioned every, ad nauseum at every conference, Cleveland Clinic and Red Bull and Lego and Kraft and all these companies that do such a great job at this, it's not that they have a better marketing strategy, it's that they have a better content operation than anybody else. And they actually treat it like a strategic function in the way that the people, the processes, and everything. And so that's what this is. It's a geeky book about process. It's about the activities that we perform, how to measure, how to create, how to structure our teams, how to structure our workflow and our governance, and all those kinds of things. And so hopefully it'll be valuable. It represents really the last 10 years of my life in terms of, the consulting that we've done, the education that we've done, all the work that you and I have done together in researching the books that we've written together. And so hopefully it's also my last book on content marketing as well. So there's that. So yeah, I'm super proud of it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
As I said, I already purchased it. It's on the way.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to going through it. And
yeah. And by the way, we're launching alongside of it, contentmarketingstrategy.com, which I paid a pretty penny for, I will tell you.
Did you for the domain?
For the domain of that.
Really?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I paid a pretty penny for that. And now, so that's going to be a new business line for me, where I'm launching coaching, so personal executive coaching, as well as access to all the stuff in the book that I mentioned, frameworks and templates and stuff like that I talk about in the book. So it's not only just a book's website, but it's also going to be a place where you can go and get practitioner level or executive level coaching from me, and you can buy it right there on the website.
Contentmarketingstrategy.com.
That's it.
Contentmarketingstrategy.com. All right, everybody needs to go there.
Yeah,
because we know how many people. You need help. You need Robert's help.
There it is.
I don't need Robert's help. But
No,
you might
don't.
need Robert's
You don't.
help.
You don't. You don't. You definitely don't need my
I just
help.
enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, that's right.
You give me free coaching.
Yeah, of course.
For life.
Yeah.
So mine, I don't even know, Robert, if this is a rant or a rave or what this is, but this is about the publishing business in general, and especially as I've been working with more and more of these content creators out there, wonderful people, and looking at their business models. I've been noticing, this is nothing new, but if you look at podcasters or YouTubers, or they're on TikTok or Instagram, and you start looking at the business model, they don't have assets of any kind. And what I mean by that is that their content distribution, what they send out, is controlled by another entity, those companies I just mentioned, and they don't get any data as well. So they don't get and let's just say an email address of anybody that's watching them. They don't get that direct connection. And when you don't control the data and you don't control the distribution, you really don't have any assets to do anything with in the future. Let's say that you would like to sell, or you would like a significant partnership with another company. It's very hard to have any leverage. And I know it's been like that for a long time, but as you and I know, as we were starting in 2006, 7, 8, 9, and we started with blogs and we started with our website, we actually started with some assets. We had the content on our site. We can control distribution. We started with email newsletters, and we got opt-in permission and their data to distribute that, and we could build these things out. And so that's the whole thing. That's one thing that concerns me, but then it leads into the next thing as I'm getting into this whole chapter of figuring out, as we talked about before on the show, this new publishing model, if there is one. The power, and I was ranting on Amazon last time, and I'm not ranting on Amazon, but I'm concerned. And so hearing Scribe Media do what they're doing and what we're doing with Tilt Publishing, I think is necessary, because as more and more authors like you and like me, we build these things, we're giving every piece of data and distribution control over to other companies. And I think it's tragic. And I don't think we're paying attention, to be honest. I think we need to start figuring out, and I'm doing this myself. For example, somebody asked me, so The Will to Die, my novel that I published in 2020, I published with CreateSpace on Amazon. So basically self-publishing on Amazon. The problem is when I sell a copy on Amazon, I get it says you sold 1 unit. I don't know who that is. And Amazon takes a big portion of that.
Sure. Yeah.
This is a problem. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, here's where one thing I have control over. I need to make sure that I set it up so my couple of fans that I have out there that want to buy this thing, they want to support me. That's great. I need to send them a link to something where I have control over how that thing is going to be distributed and the data. And I get that from that person, and I get that information that I can do all sorts of wonderful things. I can remarket to that person. I could get them involved. Like for you, I could see that you could do that. You see they buy the book. If you had that data with your book, you could offer them coaching or something else. It inhibit not having access in that way to that data or that distribution is going to kill us in the long run. And I think we have to start doing something. So you and I are talking about this. We're trying to make people aware. We're trying to do things differently. But my plea is to everyone out there that is a buyer, who you have people that you are a fan of. And I would just ask that when you are going to buy a book, or you're going to, you're supporting somebody on YouTube or a podcast like this one, you subscribe to our stuff. So like if you are a regular listener of This Old Marketing, that you go into the show notes and you subscribe to Robert's newsletter and you subscribe to my newsletter, because it really means a lot for our business models. And I'm not just saying that for us, I'm saying that for all creators.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we have to do the same thing for authors. It's just like, don't just, and I know in a lot of cases, like with our publishing models that we've been doing for decades, a lot of our stuff is hooked to Amazon. It's just the way that the publishers we've worked with have done it. So you go to Amazon for the most part, or you go to Barnes and Nobles and you buy that stuff. And who's not benefiting from that? Most part, it's the author. You get a little bit of money, but you don't get any of that other stuff. So
Yeah.
as buyers, we need to educate ourselves and say, just stop for a split second and say, how can I help this person that I'm a fan of and help their business model? And it's probably through subscribing to their newsletter or seeing if they sell direct in some way. It's probably on their website, which I need to work on and move my stuff over to. So that's, I don't know if this is a rant or rave or whatever, but I think it's just an acknowledgement that we have to start doing things differently as buyers. So that'll help all the content creators with their business models, which I'm scared for, because we talk about it all the time, but it's happening more and more. Like, oh, hey, what if TikTok does get banned? What if YouTube does change their algorithm? What if Mark Zuckerberg and Instagram continues to do stupid things? Like, what happens to those creators?
Yeah. What if Amazon gets out of the book business? Yeah.
What if that's absolutely true? Because they might say, it's not.
The book business isn't great. Yeah. So they might.
Why is Amazon in the book business, by the way? Because of the data, because of the mounds and mounds and mounds of data. Bezos was smart enough to know that getting into the book business wasn't going to make him into the billionaire, multi-billionaire he is today. It was, we can get all this data and then we can launch all these businesses off the back of that, which they've done better than most. So,
exactly.
Anyways, that's my thing.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's got a lot for me to think about as well as I start thinking through the marketing, the distribution of my book and all the things that I'm thinking about right now, including, by the way, the audio version of it. So
just between like you and I, like if we're having a conversation, author to author, and I'm thinking about all my books and I'm like, okay, well, how do I right now with most of my books and the agreements I have, I can't do this. I can't sell direct where I can package a deal unless I want to buy, which I'm really not supposed to do, buy bulk from the publisher and then sell and distribute, which is a pain on my own website.
Sure, of course.
These things together.
Well, you have to put up the cash for that, right? You have to put up you have to take the lead and buy, 100 books or whatever, and then put it on your website. And then when you sell 90 of them, you have to go buy more, right? You have to get into the wholesale business. It's
crazy. I was talking with an author the other day. I'm like, isn't it nuts that you put all this work and effort into it and you're going to send an email to your fans to buy your book and you're sending them to Amazon where you get no data and minimal profit.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Like anyways.
Yeah.
So that's,
welcome to being an author in 2023. There we go.
There's a better way, and that's what we're working on.
There is a better way.
And we will.
Indeed. So. All right. Well, so you and I are in DC next week.
DC?
It'll be fun. We'll get to hang out. It'll be Content Marketing World. It's going to be a hoot nanny. Shenanigans abound. And we have a special episode next week where we'll get to but yeah, anything else happening before you head out to Washington?
I'm looking forward to being in I mean, of course, I've told people I'm a little bit sad it's not in Cleveland. I'm a Cleveland homer. I totally get why the city changed. They kept it in Cleveland for a long time, and I'm always thankful for that. It'll be great to see a lot of friends and colleagues, and especially a lot more international people. It's a lot easier to get to DC, so that's great. And then speaking season is upon us. So I'll do that. And I'm going to Marketing Profs B2B after that. I got a couple other speeches going on.
Yeah.
So it is.
I didn't get an invite this year to Marketing Profs B2B.
Did you fill out
I wasn't
submission form?
I was not invited to do that either. So
you do know it exists, right?
I didn't know
you
that
could go into the site and submit.
I've spoken so many. Did you?
Yes.
You actually proactively went and filled out a speaker submission form. They didn't call you and say,
nope,
hey, we would like you to speak.
I filled one out, and here, this is true story. Most of the time I would wait.
Okay.
I would be like, hey, they didn't ask me. So I'm not doing anything. My wife wanted to go to Boston.
Okay. That's what it is.
Wanted to go to Marketing Profs. And she said, you have to speak at Marketing Profs because I want to go to Boston. And I said, all right, I'll fill out the form and maybe they'll accept me.
Okay.
And they did.
Yeah.
But I did fill it out.
Good for you. I did not. I did not know that it existed, nor was I made aware that it existed. So that's my bad. I'm not suggesting that it's anybody's bad except for my own, but yeah. There we go. All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Then we're done.
All right, everybody. We will see you again next week. We have a special episode for you. It's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about content marketing world and all the things that we've got planned for speaking on all of that. So until we see you next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. You tell it well, and we'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.